very much. How many of you have children? Great. How many have one? Okay. How many have two? How many have three? How many have four? How many have five? All right, Beth, you win. Oh, and how about more than five? All right.
Seven.
Seven. All right. Thank you.
All of them are adopted and foster children that I've adopted.
Oh, that's wonderful. How many of you wonderful superwomen work part-time? Okay. And how many of you work in an alternative career? All right, great. All right, we're going to start with our panel members again, and we will start with Johanna.
We each had to come up with some quick tips that you could take. We each had to come up
Can
with
you
some...
hear, Johanna?
No?
Okay. Kelly, can we check the mics, please?
Okay. We each had to come up with some quick tips that you could take away with. And I think you're going to be getting them when we're done. But oh, you already have them. Okay. My quick tips are, the first one is the perfect employer or close to it. And what I have here is that somewhere out there is that employer who's going to understand your needs. You never think you're going to find them, but if you keep on looking, you will. And let me tell you this quick Katrina story to emphasize this. I live in a neighborhood called Pineland Park in unincorporated Mandeville. And 20 years ago, I loved that neighborhood because it had all these pine trees. But in 2005, I hated this neighborhood. Why do we live here? Because 3 of the pine trees fell on the house, and we couldn't live in it. We had to live, we were in Dallas, and we were, as I told you, my husband was the oldest of 8. We were at the 8th son's house, and he had little babies, so I didn't think that my little daughter was watching the news. I thought she was occupied with her 2 cousins who were babies. My oldest son had just gone off to college, so I had my 3 of my children with me, and my husband and our dog. Anyway, Gabriella obviously was paying attention to what was going on, so when we left, we went back home to find a place to live. She got very sick. She mentally not stable. Like she couldn't breathe right. She thought that if I remember driving back from Dallas. My husband was in Baton Rouge because the Supreme Court moved to Baton Rouge, and driving home, and my little daughter was thinking that if she looked at other people in other cars, that with her look she could kill them. So I said, well, honey, don't look at him. So she laid down the whole way back. She couldn't look at other people. And I knew I was way over my head because I'm used to sinus infections or ear infections or high temperatures, and you put them in those baths to cool them, but not this. So I had to find help. I got a psychiatrist, and they gave her this medication initially just to calm her down because she was stiff. She couldn't even curl her little fingers. And it was some medication, and we took a nap. Oh, we found a place living upstairs at a doctor's house. He's a colon rectal surgeon at Ochsner Hospital, Dr. David Beck, and he and his wife took us in, me, my 3 kids, and my dog, and we lived upstairs because all of his kids were gone. So there was a family area and 4 bedrooms and 2 baths. I mean, it was wonderful. So he let us live there for 7 months, and then for 3 months I rented a place in Beauchene, and then the house was ready. But when we first got there, she couldn't eat with the family because she thought she might hurt them. And one day we took a nap, and she looked at me. We woke up from the nap, and she says, "Who are you? I want my mom." Okay, so then I started taking, and we drove to Baton Rouge to see a child psychologist because my husband's, the justices in the Supreme Court recommended some lady in Baton Rouge. So we did that like every other day, and then we went to see the psychiatrist, and then she is so fine now. But Gilsbar let me take 3 months off to take care of Gabby. So there's an employer like that that is going going to help you. They didn't say, too bad, sorry you have a problem, but we must, move on. They helped me, so that's very, very nice. And I know that everybody can find something like that.
Would you like to pose a question to the audience?
Are any of you feeling that you're not in a place where you're understood, where your needs to address, your children and all their, what comes with children? Raise your hand if you think that you're in the place you need to be, that is understanding to you. Okay, that's a lot of people. That's wonderful. Oh, I forgot my second tip. My second tip was don't forget the golden rule of treating God and others with respect and in the manner that we want to be treated, even though sometimes it's hard, because some people are difficult. It's going to bring you joy and peace. I taught CCD at St. Anselm for about eight years when my children were coming up, and I remember if the children didn't learn anything else in those classes, it was those two golden rules: love God, love others, and it helps. It helps.
Thank you so much. Perhaps we can bring the golden rule into professionalism while we're working with some other attorneys, and maybe we can teach them the golden rule. Okay, next. Angel, would you like to share some quick tips with us?
Actually, yeah. Well, I'd like to go ahead and pose the question. How many of you have ever agreed to take on a task, extracurricular, volunteer work that you did not either have the time for or didn't really want to do? Great. Like I said earlier, I have a tendency to do that, and I've always been known as the go-to person. I'm a recovering alcoholic, so I have been on more frickin' committees and this and that, and I go home, I'm going to have a drink, which is crazy because that kind of defeats the whole purpose. But in the back of my mind, I started apparently having this idea that I had to be places. And, because my presence was required in order for things to get done, and that spilled over into the workplace. And I'm kind of lazy. When I got out of law school, I didn't want to litigate, that just seemed like, and I didn't want to be working for me to do all this billing and what have you, so I became like the super law clerk. And I'm sitting in a pretrial, I'm sick, but I have to be there because the judge needs me, and I'm so important. And it's the last pretrial of the day. I know as soon as we are finished, I can go home. Well, the attorneys, one of them, it was a divorce case, and well, they were actually fighting over custody. They've been divorced for several years, and they kept bringing up the fact that the husband had cheated 10 years ago. That's what led to the divorce. They've been divorced for 9 years, and I'm like, okay, can we kind of move on, Well, the second time they brought it up, the judge turned around, she starts checking her email, and the two attorneys are, and I'm like, okay guys, come on. Well, the third time I just went, shut up! Well, all three heads whipped around, and it was like, uh-oh. And that came out of my mouth, so I excused myself. I was like, oh my God, I'm gonna get fired, I'm gonna go to jail. She can put me in jail. And, so I walked back in, I apologized, and it was just completely mortified. I apologized for about 2 months to these two individuals. But that taught me a lesson in that, if I'm sick, I need to stay home and take care of myself. If I have too many obligations, I can say no. I mean, the best piece of advice I have ever heard is that no is a complete sentence. I do not have to offer you any explanation. And I always feel, and still to this day, I'll still just say no, but I want to give you an explanation as to why I can't go ahead and volunteer for this committee, go ahead and take care of that, and what have you. And it's been really important. As I mentioned earlier, my dad's sick, and he doesn't want to take care of himself. He just wants to die. And it's just, everything's fallen on me to go ahead and, go check on him and do this, that, and the other, because he curses the nurses out. We've tried everything under the sun. And so, I have to go ahead and learn how to prioritize, what is really important. So usually the way I start off the day is just to take a couple of minutes and just breathe in and out. And then I think about what I have on the calendar, and if things happen in between that, what is really a priority. And fortunately, like I said,